Hey everyone, and welcome to the Unmodern Podcast, the podcast where we have unscripted, unapologetic, and uncomfortable conversations that affects everyday people. If you've ever had an outlook, thought, or an opinion that modern day society told you to be silent on, that you would get in trouble for, or if you've ever heard the words, probably shouldn't say that, then this is the podcast for you. My name is Alfred, a husband, father, and an adventure-seeking kind of guy who over the years has learned to have a positive outlook on life, regardless of what society throws at me. So if you're ready to listen, let's go. Zan, welcome to the Unmodern Podcast. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, man, it's good to see you, man. I'm stoked to be here.
It's awesome. I think you're going to bring a ton of value to people. We're going to try to distill it down from your very professional recovery, lived experience, and drill it down to kind of the more everyday person. I know we met in some recovery training and you brought so much value to me. You brought perspective, you brought expertise, and something that I think applies to most people. I think the term recovery, the term addiction, the term rock bottom is not something that is accurately portrayed these days. They try to distill it down to one overarching meaning, and you have a great ability to apply it to individual sets. So I'm super stoked about this episode, man.
Oh, thanks, dude. I'm happy to be here. When we met, you brought a lot of value to our conversations too, right? So I think the feeling is mutual about that. So I appreciate you too.
Yeah, man. Thanks so
In
much.
your words, let's go.
Yeah. That is definitely something that people that know me start attributing it to me, but I certainly cannot take credit for it. That has been around for a long time. I think I just embody it to the nth degree. But yes, I am all about that positive let's go mindset. So I'm going to do a quick introduction here for people that don't know you. Obviously, this is going to be very high level, and then we're certainly going to expand on this. You were raised small town BC, Sparwood, I believe, correct?
That is correct. The home of the world's largest truck, which
nice. Wow.
People that drive through Sparwood and don't stop see from the highway. And then everybody I tell that I'm from there says, oh, yeah, the big green truck. Like, yeah, that's the one.
It was the largest at one point, but I don't think it's the largest anymore.
Not even close. I don't even think it was at the time. This is a Sparwood myth.
Yeah, that's awesome. Obviously, I drive through there to get to one of my favorite spots in the mountains, Fernie. But yeah, no, good old Sparwood. So yeah, born and raised in Sparwood. Yes. And then you kind of ended up migrating over the pond to London, England for a bit, and then back to Vancouver. So you've been all over the place, man. And I absolutely love that.
Pit stops in Vancouver before London, England. But yeah, until I was 18 years old was in that small town. And it was a very good experience until it was time to go.
We'll definitely unpack that a little bit. Here I got twice divorced, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, trying to figure out fake it till you make it being a dad. I think that's kind of the book that we all read that doesn't exist. Finding recovery, beginning the inner work, and why you are the way you are. We've touched on that quite a bit, and I can't wait to unpack that for the listeners. Becoming an athlete, getting into fitness, and then leaving a very promising, very well recognized career to do your passion, which it aligns a little bit with your career, but doing it full bore, that takes a lot of gumption. That takes a lot of courage to do that. And I got to commend you for that, dude. So that's a quick high level. I don't know if you want to unpack that a little bit about your experience in Sparwood, then your travels across the pond, and just kind of where you got your start, man. You feel free to start at any age, man. You do you.
Yeah, sure. I noticed there when you said twice divorced, alcohol abuse, recovering drug addict. I was like, oh my God. It took me, I had to step back for a second and be like, oh yeah, I guess that's all true too. Like anybody else, it's been a journey, right? Of extreme highs and extreme lows. But yeah, basically, as we said, Sparwood, BC, it's a tiny little town in the Kootenays. I did grow up there almost all of my years till I was 18, but I always say it was great. It was the idyllic small town life. This was obviously pre-cell phone, pre-social media, pre-internet, pre-CD players. It was that classic small town life of riding bikes everywhere and swimming in swimming holes in the river and walking the train tracks and doing all kinds of stupid shit that you do in small towns. But I always say I wouldn't trade that for anything because it really kind of defined almost in a way who I am now with small town values and stuff. And I've got amazing friends that I've known since I was 4 or 5 years old that are still my good friends that like you can't put a price on that shit, man. To have that, I feel so blessed to have those friends that I made then. We've got a million memories. I just talked to my stepbrother. I consider him a real brother because we've been together so long, but I just talked to him last night. We were just laughing at some of the stupid shit we used to do. We're just like, the kids today just don't do this dumb shit, man. And it's almost a shame. So yeah, very much a small town life, which was great. Migrate as soon as we could. Me and my buddy moved to Vancouver on a whim almost. We were just like, let's get out of here. Everybody we knew was going to Calgary or Lethbridge or Cranbrook. Those are like the closest metropolitan areas, I guess, if you can call Cranbrook and Lethbridge metropolitan. That's where everyone was going. And me and my buddy were like, fuck it, let's go to Vancouver. And I had only been here like once before, and he had never been. We were like, let's go to the ocean. That was our whole thing. We were like, let's go to the ocean. To make a very long story short, we came out here, spent a few years here. When I was 23, my high school sweetheart moved out here with me, and we were together for a few years, up and down, of course. I was actually just talking to yesterday a friend of mine. He's a young kid. He's like 23 years old, and he's having a hard time. And I was like, you know what, man? When I was 23, I had a really fucking hard time. Like it's almost like this quarter life crisis kind of thing. You're not a teenager anymore, but you're not really ready for adult responsibilities, and you still want to party all night and sleep all day, but you got to look to pay rent or start doing whatever you do to be an adult, right? So I was around 23 years old and I was with my ex-girlfriend. We lived downtown and we went through a tragedy together. I don't think I've ever shared this on a podcast, but we had a very good friend of ours died tragically. When we were there, she actually fell off a balcony. I was standing right beside her, broke every bone in her body and didn't make it. So that's a hard thing to go through at a young age. So it kind of changed a lot of things for me at the time. My girlfriend and I had been struggling. My sister lived in London, England, and she kept saying, like, you got to come out and visit. You would love it. And I used to say, like, fuck, I live in the most beautiful city in the world. Why would I want to go to gray, old, dreary London, England and have tea at 4 o'clock? And like, I totally picture, she's like, no, it's crazy. You'll love it. Party all the time and stuff. So after my friend Wendy died, my girlfriend and we just broke up, and I just thought, life's too fucking short to not take chances and do shit. So I pretty much hopped on a plane and went to visit my sister for a month, stayed there, had the craziest time. It was everything she said. And I came back to Vancouver. I said, fuck it, I'm moving to London. So that's kind of how that happened. And yeah, that would have been year 2000, actually. Yeah, right after 99. So that's how I started the new millennium, I guess, was in London, England.
How long were you in London for?
That's another very long story that I'll make short. I was supposed to be there. You can get a 2 year working visa if you're under the age of 26. I don't know if you should still do it, but if any people under the age of 26 listen to this, fucking do it, man. The government, you can get a working visa so you can go over there and live and travel for 2 years to a few countries, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, etc. So it was only supposed to be 2 years, but London was probably the most insane times of my life. I can't even describe to you. Like when I tell stories from there, like people can't believe it. My life was so out of control, partying. I always wanted to be a rock star when I was a teenager. Well, I lived a rock star life when I was in London. So I was supposed to be there 2 years. I ended up meeting a girl. My 2 years ran up. So it was, hey, we're either going to break up or we're going to come back to Canada with me on a visitor visa. So we did. She came back here. Her visitor visa ran out, and then it was like, okay, we looked at each other. It's like, this is the end of us, or we get married. So, for better or for worse, that's what I did. We got married, and it was so easy for me to move to England and work again, even though I didn't have a working visa anymore. The government bureaucracy was so easy to get through for me to get there, but for her to work in Canada was like a nightmare. 2 year process, all this bullshit. So we just looked at each other. We're like, let's go back to England. It was supposed to be 2 years, ended up being 5 years. My kid was born there. He was born in Camden, which those of you that are familiar with London, Camden's like how would you describe it? Like the counterculture, wild, hippie, punk, goth, a little mixture of everything in Camden Town. It's quite famous. So my kid was born there. And then we came back. I didn't want to live there anymore. I was like, fuck, I want to get back to Canada. I wanted to raise him in Canada. So we packed up and came back 2005. That's a very, very short version of an extremely long story, but I think I got the key points.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. That's good. Obviously, it sounds like you were partying at a young age, didn't really stop. Party kept going for a while. Is there a moment where you can think of, whether it was London or whether it was Vancouver, where it started trending downward on the way to your rock bottom? Is there a moment in time or an event? Can you think of it was just kind of spiraling?
That's a great question because it was pretty much a spiral for many, many years. Partying was my identity, and I talk about this a lot in the coaching world and stuff like identity. What is that? And being the party guy was my identity. I was always the loudest guy. I would always do anything as far as drugs, or I was always the last guy up. And there were many, many times, like when I say, I often use the word that I'm blessed and I give gratitude because there's many times I should have died, like many times. I've got the word indestructible tattooed across my chest because it was like, fuck, there's been so many times it should have been over for me, whether it was drugs or just reckless driving or fuck, a million different things. There was times in London when it was out of control. It was always drinking. And I always say that I always did drugs to allow me to keep drinking. So I loved cocaine because it allowed me to stay up and not sleep well into the next day and well into the next day. And it was the same with speed, anything. I did anything I could get my hands on. Always high functioning. I always had a job. But in London, my job was at a music store, a very famous music store. It's not there anymore, but like all the rock stars used to shop there and stuff. But of course, it was all the staff there was young travelers like me. Everyone was there to party. And it was oftentimes it was the first time they were away from home. And it was like, that's what we did. I say this sometimes, like we used to, it wasn't unusual at all. In fact, it was more common for me to leave work on a Friday, go back into work on a Monday in the exact same clothes, hadn't showered, hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, and turn up on Monday in the exact same clothes that I went out in. I hadn't been home. Because in London, there's a million punk clubs. I was very into punk rock, still am. But there's also clubs, what would be called EDM these days. And of course, that's the ecstasy scene. So I fucking loved ecstasy. And so we would go Friday night, we'd go to the pub after work, we'd go to maybe a punk gig or a club. That club would end. And in London, there's clubs that open at 6 a.m. So one club's ending, we just get on the tube, go to another club that's just opening. And they'll do 12 hours in that club in like a warehouse or something. Next thing you know, it's Sunday night, you haven't slept yet. It was out of control. And there were many times I was questioning, like, fuck, I can't be doing this. I can't keep doing this. It was other things too. I was extremely promiscuous, and I don't have an issue saying that. It was very, very wild times when you're traveling, I guess. But so there was unsafe things going on there. It was just a very reckless lifestyle. That's how I would describe it, reckless. I never cared. We'd be in a club and someone, a stranger would be like, here, man, have some of these pills. And I would just pop them. Like I wouldn't even know what they were. And I'm talking like, people are shocked when I say this, but I'm talking like it wasn't uncommon to do like 10, 12 ecstasies in a night at a club. Like, again, blessed. People don't make it off far less than that. But it was the lifestyle. It was my identity. Again, there's the word identity. So to jump back to your question, yes, things we'll zip ahead very fast. The girl that I married there, we didn't make it. I had a very messy divorce with her. I will say too that my life was just chaos. It was chaos with women. It was chaos with drama with my friends. Always chaos. Always some sort of drama going on. So her and I split up. We were in Canada now. She didn't want to be here in Canada anymore, but our son was here. I remarried very shortly after to another party girl. And this was my attraction too. So we're probably going to talk about this later too, is I was attracted to chaos. So I chose chaotic women and I chose women that wanted to stay up all night partying with me. I chose women that wanted to enable me and let me get away with things such as infidelity or just insane drug use, this sort of thing, right? So I married another girl, and I'm not saying anything bad about these women. I married them for a reason. I loved them at one time. But I did marry another party girl, and our lives were, again, pure chaos. We drank heavily. We did cocaine quite a bit. This was just our life. So your original question was, when did you see it going off the rails? Our life got so out of control that she up and left one day unexpectedly. And it was like I got hit by a truck. I didn't expect it. I I don't know if I had ever had my heart broken before like that. And it just hit me so hard. It fucked me up like for a very long time. And I dealt with it the only way that I knew how, which was binge drinking, which was hopping on Tinder, sleeping around constantly, just chasing either a replacement or something. I don't know what I was chasing. There was always a hole in me somehow that I was always trying to fill, whether it was through women or drugs or alcohol. There was always something, or drama. So it was 8 months of absolute chaos. And I'm talking, I was a mess. I was taking so many prescription drugs, Ativans, Klonopin, Zopiclone. That was the only way that I could manage my hangovers. I will say at this point, I was 38 years old and my hangovers got so unbearable. Like I use the term soul destroying because they were crushing days. It would take days. So I'd binge drink and go out, black out. I started blacking out all the time. I have no idea how I got home or what I did. And then I would be like 4 days of like anxiety, shakes, alcohol withdrawal. just an absolute misery, all the while with an absolutely broken heart. And I tried so hard to get this girl back. She wasn't budging because she basically took one look at our lives and said, I can't do this anymore. I can't be with this guy. He brings too much chaos to me. So that was when the signs were really there of like, holy shit, you're gonna die. I couldn't sleep for days at a time. I was insomnia. I'd be like up writing these crazed emails to her, like pages and pages of emails begging her to come back and stuff. I was a broken man. That's how I would describe it. I was shattered. I was a broken man. And I lost all of the strength. I lost all of what made me me. And it was heartbreaking. That was when everything changed in those 8 months. And I truly believe that if I hadn't have had the clarity of mind to change when I did, I definitely wouldn't be here having this conversation with you. It was heading that direction. And it may have even been like, I'll be honest with you here, I feel very comfortable being very honest with you. It might have even been at my own hand. I was not wanting to be alive anymore at times. If it wasn't for my kid, there was definitely moments where I was at such a low point that I couldn't see a way out. But I had a kid to take care of. That's what pretty much kept me going until I found recovery. And everything changed for me December 1st, 2014. But again, it's a short version of a very long story. But I think that sums it up pretty good.
I love how you recited the date, the day and the year, because I really feel like that's for a lot of people, both good and bad situations in their lives, they associate that. That's what they cling on to. You talked about identity, and I know it's the same thing for me. I consciously made the choice to get off alcohol on January 2nd, 2023, not because I hit rock bottom, not because I was going down a path, because I was going down a road of, I wouldn't call it recovery. I would call it building myself up, starting to look at things as net positive versus net negative. That was rooted a lot in decisions made during the pandemic and even before the pandemic, trying to build new relationships and new friends and finding out very quickly there's only so much mentoring I can do. And there's only so much lived experience I can put on people. If people are not open-minded and receptive to it, they're almost like a ball and chain on your ankle. They just drag you down. And that's not a knock to certain people that haven't discovered their way out of it or haven't found their niche or whatever it may be. It's just at that point in time, I was not ready for it. I was not ready to be considered the person, the bigger person in any relationship, because I had a marriage and a daughter to take care of. But I love that, because when you associate the date to it, that's exactly how I do it. My upbringing, to give you a little bit, because I don't know if you know this, I think I mentioned it a little bit. I went to 14 different schools as a kid. Between elementary, junior high, high school, I went to 14 schools. So it's funny hearing you talk about childhood friends. I don't have any of those. There's nobody now that I talk to. I think my oldest friend that I still talk to irregularly, but we're very quick to pick it up. And it's as if we didn't spend any time away from each other. It was 2010. So 13 years ago. And I'm 34. Facebook and social media have allowed me to bridge that gap. But these are not people that I know what's going on in their lives at all. And so for me, dates are important, but it's funny because I went to so many different school addresses. Yeah, it's funny. We used to live on 32 Wallace Place. I remember that. That was a townhouse in Fort McMurray, Alberta. We used to live at 20 Anita Court. That was in Truro Heights, Nova Scotia. So that's how I remember my childhood is physical addresses. So we never stayed more than a year in any place, right? And we weren't a military family.
That's
it was
a lot
just
of
how
schools,
it was,
dude.
right? Yeah, it's a lot, right? So I don't have any of those core childhood memories. I have core memories of activities and the people that I did it with, but not these, we went through this with the same posse, the same crew, the same, I don't have any of that shit. So it's a bit hard for me to cultivate lasting relationships. And I think my past has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I've heard that about people that moved around a lot. Difficulty forging those solid relationships because maybe in your back of your mind, you're like, this isn't going to last. So why invest in it? I don't know, but that's what I've heard other people say.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, I'm a socially awkward person, just the way it is.
I would never know that, man.
I'm a positive person, but that positivity was cultivated over a lot of years of taking it on the chin, being the outcast, being the new kid at school, right? You almost have to impress. And rather than using drugs and alcohol to do it, I used pure courage, right? It's, Alfred, you should do this. Let's do it. Let's go. That's just where that came from, right? For me.
Like I was saying, this is how the things that shape what we're going to be later on as men, as adults, right? Like it's these types of experiences, whether it's the nervousness going into a new classroom for the first time or like whatever, right? Like you become braver by going through that over and over.
Yeah, I think it builds experience doing it too, though, right? So that's part of the reframe. And I think that's likely part of your journey. And it's definitely part of my journey is reframing what I used to associate negatives to in a positive. Not what I don't have in terms of childhood friends, childhood memories, childhood addresses. I see people, oh, my family lived in this house for 40 years and there's our notches on the wall of how tall we were as kids and stuff. Whereas me, I'm well traveled.
Yeah.
I can amalgamate into a new group of people relatively quickly. Now, can I make that relationship last long term? That's obviously my struggle, but
Mhm.
I have that skill and I had it at an extremely young age.
Mhm.
And so that I've never done that until probably the last 3 years. Is I've never had a need to do that, but not only that, I've never had the desire to. And now that I want to build new lasting relationships with this podcast, with meeting like-minded, but also different-minded people with similar lived life experience, I
Mhm.
have to leverage that. And by reframing it, it allows me to do it much, much easier.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Reframing, I use that in coaching all the time. It's one of the secrets of being a good coach. Like you said, to give them a new perspective on it, right? Like that's what I do a lot. I just want to jump back quickly there and congratulations on you must be into your 10th month now then without alcohol. And that's amazing, man.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And that just goes to show everybody's experience is unique. But whatever leads you to not drink, which leads to bettering yourself, is worth it. Like I know you put on your Instagram that quote that I think I've told you before that I always say is you don't gotta hit rock bottom. Rock bottom is when you stop fucking digging the hole, right? And some people stop drinking for almost competitive advantage. Maybe they're not advancing in their career. Maybe they're not being the best husband or their marriage is on the rocks and but they haven't hit rock bottom. Maybe they don't even drink that much, but they determine that hey, here's something that's holding me back in life and here's what I'm going to do about it. And I'm going to move forward without it or at least attempt to move forward without it, right? It's all about bettering yourself and being another thing I always say is being 10% better, right? And whatever it is, it could be gambling, it could be social media, it could be TV, it could be pornography, like whatever it is that's holding you back is a roadblock. If you can identify it and then start taking the steps to overcome it, right? So I think I'm hearing from you. I think that's what you kind of did.
Yeah, absolutely. I looked at something that wasn't a net positive in my life. I've shared this with you, but the root cause of this is my distaste for alcohol because I've actually never been a binge drinker. I've never been a big consumer of alcohol.
Mhm.
Is I had a really bad alcoholic father his whole life. He's actually in the hospital right now in end stage liver failure, and
Sorry, man.
yeah, no, for sure. And I appreciate that. And it's one of those things where I wanted to disassociate with that as much as I could.
Mhm.
And about 18 months ago, when I was discovering cold plunging, and I had a friend of mine go through a health journey and really come out and open my eyes to just being open minded and not judging a book by its cover, because I was super fucking prone to doing that. I'd look at
Yeah.
somebody on the street with a hood on and needle in their arm, and I think, what a fucking junkie, what a loser, not
No joke,
realizing
man.
that not realizing that guy at some maybe as a family, maybe a woman left him, things that are outside of his control, and he wasn't able to cope with it and handle it.
Yes.
I was that immature piece of shit dude, no joke. Like that's how I was. And about
I
18
was at
months
one time
ago,
too.
yeah, yeah. And I think everybody is to a degree, right? Because I think we're taught that.
Mhm.
We're taught to judge a book by its cover, right? We're taught that you have to be able to take information or visual indications, be able to quickly process them and come to a conclusion.
Yeah, good point.
That's how we're taught to do a lot of things. Everything's about efficiency. Everything is about, does it catch our eye when we're scrolling through social media? It's the first 5 seconds. They call it
Well,
that hook, right? What's the phrase? What's the picture? What's the image? What's the music? How can I bring
mhm.
you in really quickly? And we have to be able to make a decision very quickly.
Yeah, good point. With the judgment, right? Like we're also ignorant. We gain perspective and knowledge as we get older, of course. I used to be too. I'd be like, oh, I should just get a job. I've worked on the downtown east side of Vancouver right now, which is ground zero in Canada, pretty much. And to say just go get a job, it's so much more complex than that. I say everybody down there is just a beautiful lost soul, man that something went wrong along the way, a trauma that I certainly can't understand, or something went wrong, like you said, a wife left, one bad decision here, whatever it is, right? But over my years partying, I had some dalliances with some very, very hard and addictive drugs, and I know how fast it happens. And I'll say it again, I was blessed to get out of those situations because it was very, very likely I would be down there right now or not on this earth. These drugs are extremely addictive. And most of the time, there's no getting out of it once you're in. So, yeah, so my point was, yeah, we look at it with ignorance until we have lived experience, until we maybe know somebody that went through it or start to understand addiction. Because, like I was saying, addiction could be fucking pornography. It could be Gambling. People lose their houses. They lose everything to gambling. Anything. Could be food, man. Anything. What we're addicted to. Addiction is so powerful. And so I've got a lot more grace to those that are suffering now than I did when I was young and dumb. That's for sure.
I love how you touched on all of those things, because I think most people listening, and including myself not too long ago, if you would have said the term addiction, the first thing I think of is a junkie in the street.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I think of is a mom in a stable home online shopping on Amazon with a credit card hidden from her husband. If you look in the dictionary, those two people have the same problem, and it's called an addiction. If you can't control it, and it's impulsive and it's destructive, I don't know what the official definition of addiction is. I'm sure you can definitely touch on that, but those are the same things. Porn, same thing. If a man or woman can't control their sexual impulses, whether through porn or through vice or through promiscuity, that's an addiction. That legitimate, that's an addiction. And
I know that one too.
and when we stop demonizing this word and using it the way fucking MSNBC and CBC and all these people use it with visual imagery, and you realize that addiction isn't a death sentence. Addiction isn't, now you're labeled for the rest of your life. No, that's not the case at all.
No,
and your lived experience needs to be leveraged for people, because I don't think it gets much closer to the end game than that. And you touched on it, where you skated on thin ice for a long time. And there's some people that might even be halfway down the road you did, and they're like, this is getting scary. This is getting scary. And awareness is the first part of it. Once you get, like you said, you got, I think the word you used is clarity. And not everybody has the blessing to get that while they're in the middle of the shitstorm. But I think being able to expand on that a little bit from your expertise is from an addiction standpoint, is using the term addiction to describe something that you do or something that you cannot control is not a admission of guilt, or it's not an admission of, well, now I'm labeled. It's you've become aware of it, and now you can turn the corner. And like you said, that ringing phrase, you've stopped digging. It's time to fucking go to get out of the hole.
Yeah, dude. Well, the definition I use for addiction is compulsive behavior that has a short-term benefit that you continue on to do in the face of long-term consequences, right? That's basically how I would define it. But yeah, it could be anything. And it ruins lives, ruins families, right? I've worked with a lot of guys at various stages of it, and it'll get you. But I do believe truly that I say this all the time on social media and everything, is recovery is 100% possible for anybody. It is. It's never too late. You're never too far down. Like, there is always hope. You meet the right people. You find hope when you're hopeless. It's real easy to stay in an addiction because life is bleak, right? But you maybe meet somebody, maybe something happens by chance that gives you a little bit of hope, whatever it is. But if you're looking for it, you will find it. And I believe that through treatment, through mentorship, through whatever it is, whatever avenue someone chooses, recovery is possible. The example I always use when talking about this is Steve-O from Jackass. I think I always say is, if Steve-O, he just had I think 15 years of recovery. And I always say, man, if Steve-O can fucking do it, then anybody can do it, because that guy was gone, man, mentally, everything. He was on another planet and did not want help, and eventually found recovery. I look to him as an inspiration. I look to a lot of celebrities or rock stars or athletes. That's where I get a lot of my inspiration from. But with him, it's like, fuck, if this guy can do it, anyone can do it, man. And I believe that. It's my goal to help people see that. You're never too far gone. I know that blackness. I know that bleak feeling of depression and feeling there's no way out, of like, this is it. This is who I am. I'm a fucking alcoholic drug addict. This is me. But it doesn't have to define you. After you decide to stop is what defines you, right? I think.
I love that. And to go back to the Steve-O point, I've seen that now he's mentoring Bam Margera, and he actually just celebrated 1 month sobriety. And that really resonates with me, because on my previous podcast, I had a good friend of mine, Ray, and he's a very entrepreneurial spirit. He owns multiple businesses. He actually was teaching his daughter at the age of 12 about business and stuff like that. And he talks about how entrepreneurs are so giving and they're so willing to share. And I think that goes to anybody who's gone through something difficult. I'm going to bring it back to our conversation, is addicts. That found the light are so eager to share and find that space because they found the secret sauce. It's not to say that what worked for you is going to work for somebody else, but they look at you as a possible desired out. Like, I remember the last time I seen you, you were passed out in a ditch on Granville Street. And now you have this amazing career. You're helping other people do it. How did you do it? And
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever heard of a single person who's been through the shit, whether it's business, whether it's addiction, whether it's career, whether it's fitness, turn a blind eye to a person that genuinely asks for help and genuinely
I,
asks for even just give me a nugget, give me a
hmm
little bit. Like how, like what was the first thing did you do? Did you get into a cold plunge? Did you
hmm
force throw up? Did you go on a 3-day fast? Did you call 1-800 helpline or the suicide
hmm
hotline? What was it? And it's just that beacon. It's that momentum. And I love that when you talk about that, it's so powerful because you're seeing it now with celebrities that you don't want to be glamorized for this, but you're so willing to share and you're so
hmm
willing to help other people. And it doesn't mean that the person was as bad a situation as you. It can be
hmm
anybody that has, whether they listen to this or look on your website or watch videos of other people and they're like, damn, I got a fucking problem. I need to get ahead of this. You don't need to hit rock bottom. You don't need to lose your marriage. You don't need to
hmm
lose your job. You don't need to go bankrupt. If you're trending down a path where you reflect and you have that awareness and you're just like, man, a year ago, this is not where I wanted to be when I set my New Year's resolution. Fuck, I
hmm
need to get some help. That's the moment. That's the light bulb moment, right?
Hell yeah, that's totally true. You're always best suited to help the person that you once were, right? And I always say this is why my goal is to be the person that I needed 10 years ago because I was grasping for somebody. I always say this. I was never supposed to be in recovery. I was never supposed to not drink. Like that was never even a consideration in my life to be this person. It was always going to be drinking. I used to make fun of people that didn't drink. If I met someone, I wouldn't even like talk. I was such a dick. I wouldn't even like talk to him at parties or anything. I'd be like, this guy's no fun, this or whatever. He doesn't even drink or whatever, right? But so it wasn't supposed to be this way for me. See, of course, shit happened the way that it happened. It was necessary for it to happen. I'm so fucking grateful that it happened. But now I hope that there is somebody that was in the same situation that I was that reaches out. The hand of recovery is always there. Anybody, like you said, so many people are willing to help. I don't go to AA anymore, but the 12th step is to basically pass it on to help any newcomer, anybody that reaches out. My phone line is always open. And I've got people sometimes message me. They're like, you don't know me, but I'm a friend of so and so. And they said that you might be able to talk to me about this. And I talk to everybody. Of course, I do this for a living too, but it's a very meager living. I'll say that. It's you do it for the fulfillment rather than the financial gain, that's for sure. But again, that's what I had a very well-paying, secure job for a long time, but I chose this because exactly for this. It sounds cheesy, dude, but I was fucking called to this. Like I feel that this was my mission. That's why I turned my back on money and security to have none of it. I'm just kidding. It's not that bad, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's like I felt I was called to do this. I truly, truly want to help. And I truly, truly want to be, like you said, it's not an ego thing to be it's not like, oh, I'm so good and I figured this out and you listen to me and this is what we're going to do. It's not like that at all. That's not even what coaching is. Coaching never gives advice. The thinking is that the person that wants help, they have the answers within them, and a good coach just helps them, guides them to find that answers within themselves. Sometimes I think about this. Oh, people might think that, oh, because you're a coach, or because I do resiliency coaching too, and like men's coaching. That's another huge passion of mine is men's coaching. So I do this. And people think like, oh, this guy's got it all together, or this guy's whatever. It's like, fuck no, dude. There's no pedestal. There's no hierarchy here. I'm just somebody that figured out some things along the way. I did change my life entirely in every possible way, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, everything. I don't advise people on what to do because what works for me fucking doesn't work for everybody. If I had the answers to recovery, I'd be a multi millionaire because everybody would want that shit. But what works for one person doesn't work for another. But you can walk with somebody, you could walk beside them, you could encourage them. It's like a fighter goes out there and lays their heart in the ring, comes back for the round. There's somebody there waiting for them. Like, you got this. Have you thought about this? What about this? And sends them back out there again. And that's really somewhat what a coach does. There's no advice giving. I don't have life figured out, even though deal with people and coach people in all different situations. I don't got it figured out. I have a fractured relationship with my son. I am twice divorced and multiple other broken relationships. I'm working on it constantly, but there's no hierarchy to this, right? I always say my whole thing is just one strong man to another. We're just one dude helping another dude, showing them that there is a way out. So that's my fucking mission is to show, hey, there is a way out of this. If you want it, if you accept where you are, and if you accept, the key thing is if you accept that you did this, everything that's happened was a result of your decisions and your actions. When you accept that, that's when you know that you can change it. I've said this before, you build this life, you build it brick by brick, man. And because you built it, you can fucking smash it down. You can start all over again. All of our lives, we're building this house, right? Are you building, is it on a sturdy foundation? Are you building strong walls to protect what's inside, right? All these sorts of things. We build this and you can smash it all down and you can start all over again. And that's what I think happens. I've seen it happen with people that I've worked with. It's like, fuck, once that mindset change happens that, hey, I'm in control here, right? Like I'm the captain of my ship. I am the author of my own story. Once that happens, that's when real recovery starts.
Man, I love all of that. And towards the end there, when you talked about destroying the walls that you built, it reminded me of when you discovered really quickly that I'm a huge fan of analogies. I remember us laughing at that. And it reminds me of Chris Williamson when he talks about menopause.
Oh,
And
yeah.
for those people that don't know what that is, and we're going to focus on men here around this conversation because I think it's applicable because we're both men. I think your coaching is centered around men. And I think this also directly affects men more than women is menopause. And he describes it as between 25 and 35 when you're
Mhm.
climbing this mountain, whether it's career, whether it's social status, whether it's fitness, whatever it may be, or perhaps you're going up the mountain of destructiveness. That analogy to make it applicable, but climbing the mountain of drugs, alcohol, sex,
Mhm.
addictions, destroyed relationships, fractured fatherhoods, whatever it may be. When you
Mhm.
get to the top and you realize and you look around, you're like, fuck, I should have climbed that mountain. As men, we're not afraid to climb a mountain. Courage
Mhm.
is, I don't know many men that don't have courage to a degree. I don't know
Mhm.
many men that when presented with no options that they'll fucking put on their boots and go. It's
Mhm.
climbing down the mountain that took you years and years and years to summit. That's the difficult part.
Fuck
That's
yes, dude.
that's that's where most men struggle is if you
Mhm.
want to pivot in your career, if you want to acknowledge and get up to the top and take that breath of fresh air and you're like, I'm in the wrong
Mhm.
fucking place. I am not supposed to be here. It's the scaling back down that is
Yeah.
fucking daunting. I know that's very applicable to my life.
Mhm.
Very applicable. I've wanted to pivot my life in many ways for many years. I've questioned my purpose. I've questioned what I do for work. I've questioned my marriage when we have rough times. And it's that idea of backtracking. It's that idea that society or friends or family or whatever it may be, in every metric possible, it will look from the outside that you are going backwards.
Right.
Even though nobody asks you, why are you doing this? Nobody ever fucking asks that damn question. Nobody asks, man, you're kind of boring or you're not drinking anymore. You're a loser. It's like, you don't know the why. So I'm just going to keep fucking going. And then when
Mhm.
I get to the base of the new mountain, that's actually when it gets easy because we're not
Mm.
afraid to do that as men. We're not afraid to
Yeah.
fucking like, if you told me that I had to go back to school to do something that I'm more passionate about, that's not the scary part. The scary part is the losing the income. The scary part is losing the title of senior manager. I've gotten 3 promotions and now I have to start back at the bottom and have to compete with 21-year-olds. Fuck that. It's that ego, that pride. And I think that's the struggle for most people. It's that idea that, and I'm not to say that you have to summit that mountain, but on your way up, 3/4 of the way or whatever, you're just like, fuck, I made a huge mistake. Or
Ah.
not necessarily a mistake, but you might get there and you're like, this just isn't for me,
Mhm.
not for me. And sometimes there's external factors, but most of the time it's an internal factor. Your values pivot, your beliefs pivot, your desires pivot. And
Mhm.
that's the hardest part. And I think as men, we need to support each other on that endeavor. I'm not trying to show you which mountain you need to climb. That's you and you alone. You need to decide that
Mhm.
in all aspects of your life. But if you need to help on the way down, that's when we grab the rope together and we slowly make our way down and make that landing at the bottom a little bit easier. And I think that's the sauce. That's the secret.
Yes, dude. And that's such a great analogy. And what a tragedy it is that so many men are on the top of that first mountain, don't want to be there and spend their whole lives there because it's maybe comfortable, maybe they're afraid, there's fear involved, but they stay there for the whole time up on the mountain. They don't want to be on. They're looking at the other mountain. That's where I want to be, but I can't because I'm afraid to go back down. It took all this time to get up here. Well, now I don't want to go back down, right? So I know people like that too, and there's no right or wrong answer. You can be content on top of that mountain, the first one, if you have a family that loves you and you have a simple life and that's what you want, and you got your snow machines and your truck and your whatever, like that's if that's what you want. But you're right. If you want to get to the other mountain, it's going to take some work, physical work, internal work, and it's a challenge. And this is what life is about. Freaking life is a mountain, man. Climbing and going down, pivoting, getting into unsafe situations, but basically fucking keeping going, keeping pursuing what's on top of that mountain if that's what you want. If what you want is up there, you fucking go get it, right?
I want to dive into your expertise here a little bit. I really want people to understand how you bring value because I've seen it firsthand and I want people to kind of get a little bit of a nugget. So how specifically is your approach? How do you work with guys in recovery? And then on top of that, are there any commonalities you see with people either desiring recovery or why they need recovery in the first place?
Well, that's a great question. Everybody comes for different reasons, I'll say that. And everybody's story is unique. And they're all at various stages of what they are needing from me, I guess we'll say. Basically, the first thing I do is see like how are they being forced to be there? Like, is it an ultimatum by their wife or their boss or something? Do they actually want recovery? Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't, right? So it's like the old saying is people will change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing, right? So there are people that come in when staying the same is just too painful and they need to change, right? So in that case, one of the first things that we work on is acceptance. With myself, one of the things that I had to accept when I did have that moment of clarity was basically something needs to change. And it's probably me because I looked at all of my relationships, my drinking. It's like something needs to change in this situation, and all fingers are pointing to me. Okay, now that I've determined that, how am I going to do that? Basically, one of the first things I do with guys, I work on this. I might have actually told you about it before. I can't remember. Have I told you about the sailboat metaphor?
No.
Well, you love your analogies and your
Let's
metaphors.
go.
Fuck, you'll love this, man. So it's not my own thing, but it's based out of a positive psychology work. Basically, the entire message of my coaching, whether it's men's coaching, whether it's recovery coaching, whatever it is that you are the captain of your ship and you have been for your whole life. You're at the wheel. Everything that's happened to get you to there, you have been steering this ship, the good, the bad, the tragedies, everything. You've been at the wheel and you're still at the wheel. So what do you do when the storms come in? Like, do you grab the wheel and fight the storms? Do you let the waves batter you back to sea? Like, what do you do? You're the captain. And for the rest of your days on this planet or on the sea, you are the captain of this ship, right? So that's the gist of how I work with guys. So that's the first thing is like accepting that. This is what I was saying about something needs to change and it's probably me. Well, I've been the captain of the ship. So if it was fucking going in a bad direction, it was me that put it there. If it was allowing people to travel with me that weren't healthy for me, that was me because I'm the captain. And guess what, dude? You're the captain of your own ship. Everybody is the captain of their own ship, right? We start with that and then through this thing called the sailboat metaphor. So this is a way of examining your life through 8 different areas. This is the starting point for all of the coaching with me. So we do this and they're all related to as if you're the captain of your ship. So we start with the water. Well, the ship's on the water. This is what's called life domain. So this is your work, your friends, your relationship, your finances, your hobbies. This is the water that you are moving in. So we look at that, get really clear on, because oftentimes where there's problems in one, it's going to lead to problems in the other. If you're having problems at work, you're going to bring stress home to your marriage. You're going to bring stress home to your parenting, etc., or whatever. So we look at where are you right now in the water? Like where are you sailing through? So that's element 1. Element 2 is the compass. So every captain has a compass. The compass represents your emotions. So the captain looks to the compass to see, it gives feedback to him about the direction that he's going. So your emotions are always giving you feedback. Like, are you living in a state of anger? Are you living in a state of joy? Maybe. But what are the emotions going on with you right now? Is there jealousy? Is there resentment? Resentment is huge. So we look at that, right? That's the compass, is your emotions. The third element is your values, and this is represented by the steering wheel. So one of the main things I do in coaching is figure out your values, like your core values. And dude, so many people do not know what their core values are. I would say like 20% of people do maybe have really put work into it and thought about it. So we determine your values are the steering wheel. Your values guide you, just like the steering wheel guides the ship. So when you get clear on your values, you can be like, okay, am I sailing in a direction that's in line with my values? Oftentimes it's not, especially around addiction or any kind of negative human behavior, oftentimes you're not going in line with your values. So getting clear on that allows you to be more aligned so you can start moving in the direction with your values. And that changes a lot of things for a lot of people. A lot of people will say, I didn't know that my value, or maybe if you're in addiction, you have a core value of yours is honesty, but you're lying every fucking day. You're hiding an addiction or something. Well, you're obviously out of alignment, right? Maybe you value family, but yet you're working at a job that you hate for 12 hours a day so that you can make money, but your value is family, right? So, anyways, we get clear on that, and that's the steering wheel. The fourth one is the leaks. So, a boat will have leaks on it. This represents your weaknesses. So, when I work with guys, let's be honest here. What are your weaknesses? Because guess what? We all have them. Let's figure them out. What is it? Are you quick to anger? Do you procrastinate too much in your life? What is it? And I challenge guys and we sit and we talk about it. What are your weaknesses? And those are the leaks in the boat. As soon as you repair one, another one pops up because guess what? We're all flawed human beings, right? We're all just trying to get through this journey, but we have leaks on our boat. So it's identifying them, working on them. The fifth element is the sails, and the sails represent your strengths. Okay, so if the leaks are the weaknesses, the sails are your strengths. So when the wind fills the sails, you start moving fast with momentum. So then we're like, hey, what are your strengths here? People don't know what their strengths are. Like maybe it's loyalty, maybe it's whatever. But when you come up with 5 or to 8 strengths of yours, you're like, fuck, I'm a strong person, actually. I can use these things. And we use that to kind of move forward. How can you use these strengths in your life? Where are you not? Etc. The sixth element is the weather. So you're a captain on a ship, there's the weather. This is the only element that's actually outside of your control. The weather largely represents resiliency, pretty much. What do you do when the storms come? You can't control the weather. So what do? Do you let that storm blow you down? Do you choose to fight it or not? Because there's always going to be storms. There's a storm on the horizon almost always, right? So what do you do? So that's the sixth element, but we focus on that. How do you focus on what you control? How much of your anxiety, stress, depression is around things that are actually outside of your control? You would be amazed, dude, at how much time human beings stress and mental energy and anxiety worrying about things that we just cannot control. When you get clear on that and people accept that I can't control this, I will focus on what I can do. What can I do in the situation? We're often not responsible for the things that happen to us, especially the shitty things, for sure. We're not responsible for that, what people have done to us. But how we react to it, that is 100% within our control. We get really clear on that, and that helps people move forward right there. Just getting clear on focus on what I can control. Start making the incremental changes that I need to do to turn this ship around, right? And sorry, I know I'm going on and on about this, but
Love it, man. Keep going, dude. This is huge value for a ton of people. I'm a visual learner. This whole idea of a sail, it's painting a picture in my head, right? Kind of thinking of Johnny Depp on that boat and how he's kind of calm when things are going nuts and he finds creative solutions.
Sometimes the weather is great. Sometimes we're sailing and the sun is out and it's smooth seas and we can kick back and enjoy life. Like savor those moments because there's always a storm coming, right? So you always be aware that there's a storm coming, right? So it's just a matter of the weather we can't control. That's the basic analogy behind it. But the seventh element, and I will just say this too, on my website, gallant-coaching.com, there's a visual of this. So you can see the boat in the middle and how it all goes around. So if anybody's interested, just check that out. The seventh element is the other boats. Okay, so you're the captain of this ship. Who are you traveling with? So we get really fucking clear on this. Like, are the people you're traveling with helping you on your journey? Or are they somehow sabotaging you? Are they holding you back? Are they there for you when your sail rips or whatever? Or are they sailing in front of you, slowing you down, right? So you got to get really clear in your life on who you are traveling with on this journey. And people, when we do these exercises, people are like, fuck, I've got some coworkers that are really holding me back, or like my dad or my mom, somebody. Sometimes it's their partner. It's like, fuck, this person is not helping me on my journey. And it might even be inadvertently, but you got to get clear. You're traveling. And as I always say, all those other boats you're traveling with, they have their own captains too. So you have to be respectful of them. Do they want you sailing with them? This is what you have to determine, right? So you get really clear on you're the captain of the ship. Who the fuck is beside you in this ocean? And that can determine a lot of things about your direction too. And the eighth one, there's 8 elements. The eighth one is the map. Okay, the map represents your goals. Where the fuck are you going? Without a map, you're just fucking sailing in circles in the ocean, wherever the wind blows you aimlessly, right? But when you have a map, it's like, here's where I'm going. Here's what I want. What is the best way to get there? And then you can look at it. So that's your goal, right? Whether it's recovery coaching or men's coaching, so many men are lost because they have no goal. They're not working towards anything. There's no purpose. There's no meaning. They're going through the motions on this hamster wheel of life and without something to be striving for, something to better themselves or even look forward to in the future. Right. And we can get small goals. We get really clear on this. You could get small goals or like big goals, right? So maybe you want to write a novel. Maybe you want to go back to school or something, like whatever it is. So save for retirement. Those are like big goals. And then there's small goals. Fucking lose 10 pounds. Whatever it is, get better at something, learn a different language. But if you're not clear on where you're going, you're never going to get there. So what are you going to do to move forward in recovery? Recovery is meant to be embraced and enjoyed. It's not meant to be tolerated. If you choose recovery, it's because you've chosen to better yourself. So what does that mean? Is it a physical challenge? Is it repairing a relationship? I don't even know because it's different for every man. Every man's unique. But what is it? And let's get fucking crystal clear on it. And let's help you. I'm not going to tell you how to get there. I can show you on the map, like, here's where you want to go, but I can't fucking get you there. So you need to do that. You're the captain. That's what it all comes down to, is you are the captain. So you decide. And then we work together to set you on course. So I always say a lot of my coaching has to do with this captain analogy, but I always say what the coach is the lighthouse, right? So every once in a while, you as captain, you're going to get too close to shore. You're going to get into some rocky waters. Maybe a storm blows you into a dangerous area, like you're fucked, whether this is around an addiction or a divorce or anything that sets you back in life. Maybe you get fired or laid off from your lucrative job, right? Like you're going to get too close to the water. A coach as a lighthouse, I mean, just stands there. It's a solitary object, but it has a light. It can guide you. The client or the person that is needing guidance, the whole goal is to get them to sail back out to the ocean. So people come to me when they're getting too close to the rocks. As an analogy, there's something wrong, whether it's an addiction, they're fucked, they're about to crash. Maybe they're about to crash and not survive. The coach's job as the lighthouse is to just stand there, be the guiding light with the ultimate goal of you sailing back out. That's what the concept of autonomy is, which I believe it, that you are in control. You have free will as a human fucking being. And as captain of your ship, you have free will. So you need to get back out on that ocean and start sailing proudly and strongly like the man that you are. And the lighthouse is the guide to get you out there. That's the analogy I use for that. It seems to make sense to me, anyways.
You're speaking my language, dude. Analogy Alfred approves of that message.
I love it.
Yeah, that's really good. Something that I want to bring a little bit of perspective to, and this is experience for me going back, talking about how I don't have any childhood friends. I don't have any of those core relationships, but it's funny because I come from the exact opposite. My upbringing, aside from my father, was men that spent their entire lives together. Rotary clubs, Kingsmen clubs, coffee clubs. When I think of successfully navigating the waters of life, to kind of piggyback on your analogy, I think pillar 7 is the one where your circle fucking matters. And for 2 reasons, and I will say that, is when you have people that you've been around with your entire life, that you build this trust, this rapport, this camaraderie with, especially as men, when you've been through the shit, it speaks volumes. It brings a degree of, I trust their body language. I trust their lived experience. I trust their commitment and their reliability to be there when shit hits the fan. But on the flip, and I think this has been a detriment to men well before the pandemic, but the pandemic really put a fucking microscope on it, is it allows our behaviors to be audited. Is I feel men, we are not good judges of our own behaviors. We fucking suck, not just as men, as humans, but especially as men. It's really hard for people. Before, when I used to party and it's like I'm talking loud, I didn't think I was talking loud. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm not the loudest guy in the room. Or if you're being a bit of a kiss ass at work and you're kind of compromising on your values and your integrity a little bit to get that promotion back in the day. But also you find this with people that I'm sure your friends in Sparwood that you've been with, if they've met you and they know you since your recovery journey, you start going down the wrong path, they're going to fucking call you out on it.
I'd hope so.
Right. And so that's where it's super important, where Now we have this fucking Lone Ranger syndrome going on where you have to be the jack of all trades. You have to be able to do all the things. Women expect a man to be able to kind of answer all the questions and do all the things.
Mm,
And that's not how it was ever meant to be. It was
hmm
never meant to be like that. Everything you do is meant to be done as a collective, whether that's a family, whether that's friends, whether that's a community, whether that's a church, whether that's AA. You think of
mm,
any support system, even doing one-on-one coaching, which has value. I would argue doing it in a collective would exponentially multiply the results to a
hmm
degree. And the reason being is because of that objective reality that other people see you in. If they're
hmm
willing to share and you're willing to take the feedback, good or bad, swallow
hmm
that ego and really understand that this negative conversation I'm about to have with you is in
hmm
your best interest. And that's been huge for me because I didn't believe it for years. I always put myself up on a pedestal. For instance, if I had more experience in a gym, like, man, what the
Yeah.
fuck are you talking about? You don't lift weights. Or I'll even say I played competitive paintball for years and I have
hmm
somebody new in the sport. Listen, man, somebody brings a fresh perspective, a fresh evolutionary mindset, a fresh youthful tactical approach to something. It needs to be fucking valued. And we
Yeah.
demonize it now because we've lost that pack mentality. We've lost that collective as men mentality. And it's fucking
Yeah.
horseshit. It's fucking horseshit.
Yes, dude. But now you're speaking my language too. Yeah, I just said this in a video recently. I don't know what I may have been Chris Williamson that I heard say it. Somebody said it that just like there's this lone wolf mentality out there, right? But guess what, man? The lone wolf doesn't survive without the pack, right? And I believe that too. And through the work that I did the past 8 months or so, I've been facilitating a recovery program for a treatment center, and small groups is like a rolling 5 week program, small groups, but it's what you're talking about with when you get a group of guys together, it's okay to somewhat challenge or hold someone accountable. That can be a game changer. A group of guys, like I do a lot of one-on-one coaching and I love one-on-one coaching. I have found that a lot of guys that eventually do reach out, they say, oh man, I wanted to reach out a year ago. I couldn't do it. I was afraid, or whatever, ego, all sorts of these things of showing weakness as a man or something got in the way. And I love that one-on-one is where monstrous change can happen because it's a when you can set this floor for a non-judgmental and confidential space, like the toughest guy in the world will break down and say things that they haven't said in years or ever. And that is where true change happens when you can access that vulnerability, which I'm not even a huge fan of that word, but we need to do that, right? My point was in this group facilitation that I've been doing is it's sometimes easier for the guys to, amongst other guys, to maybe come out of their shell a little bit when the stage has been set for that to be welcomed. So I've done multiple groups of just men. And I say to them right at the beginning, I'm treating this as a little men's group. This is what we're going to do here. This is going to be a men's space. And they love it. They're in this treatment program, but we kind of take it into this is a place where we can actually share now, confidently knowing that this is within us. Nothing ever leaves this space. And we're here to support each other and hold each other accountable. It's been amazing to lead those groups. And I've seen what you're talking about, that change, right? Of, yeah, leaving that lone alpha male mentality behind, which don't get me wrong, I'm very much into masculinity space as well. And there's a time and place for alpha behavior, but not toxic alpha behavior, certainly. But yeah, it's just interesting when the past, I mean, I've been doing this work for about 2.5 years. And before this, I would have never thought that I would be able to see men, have such breakthroughs for the first time and literally change their lives by talking about it amongst men. I have had female clients in the past, recovery clients as well as other things, and I do welcome them, but I love to work with the man that is struggling and doesn't know who to talk to in his life because he might be married for years, but he can't talk to his wife about this shit. He might have best friends that they watch hockey with or UFC, or they go to the pub and they talk about chicks and they talk about dumb shit and whatever. Not dumb shit because it's important, but you know what I mean. They're not sharing their fears about life. They're not sharing their insecurities, even whether they're having like problems with their sex life or anything like that, right? But it's been amazing to see multiple guys get to the point where, and these are, like I said, the toughest, most alpha guys to get to see that side of them. And it's just when you start working on that healing, whether it's through recovery or just a lot of times it is after a heartbreak, after a divorce, after being rejected, after suffering a devastating personal defeat. That's when you start to accept that healing needs to take place. And it's fucking amazing when it does. It happened to me, and I've seen it happen to other people. I know it's happened to, but you have to be willing. You have to be open-minded and willing and honest with yourself.
That goes full circle, right? And it's all applicable to one overarching goal of recovery and open-mindedness and awareness. And that's important for people. I know that you've discovered health, you've discovered physicality, you've discovered challenges. The men's group that I've been a part of, Extremely Conscious, since February, we had a meeting this morning about what the next journey is, what's on the plate. Because over the summer, we did the Jordan Peterson self-authoring, the link that I shared with you. So
That's
that might
right.
be a friendly
Yes.
reminder for you to get started on that, because that brings up a lot of stuff, man. I will tell you right now, doing past
Mm-hmm.
authoring and welling into those previous traumas and really bringing them to the surface and then
Mm-hmm.
reflecting on them in the present and then future planning. We're starting on the fitness journey here.
Nice,
And
nice. I did open it and I have looked at that, by the way. It's
yeah, no,
I've,
for sure. And I loved when I shared that with you, because I think especially you and people listening to this podcast be like, man, this fucking clown needs to write a book for sure. It's like, and really that is the start of people starting an autobiography. One of the guys in our men's group, I think, has over 30,000 words self-authoring. So he's really brought up a lot of stuff. Where I was going with this is this last iteration is health and wellness, because I've discovered recently the courageous rah getting into a frozen lake, and people call me crazy for it, and that's all fine and dandy. Finding that really opens your eyes to realize how powerful you are, but it's that long-term investment of health and wellness and really creating a regiment, building yourself physically so you can see it. It's easy to, or I shouldn't say it's easy, when you
mm-hmm.
change your mindset and you go through that battle. It's hard to show people the work you've done. It's hard to show people the growth or the change. But when you put in the physical work, and I want to really touch on this with you, because you're a beast, man. I mean, some of the shit that you've done, and I don't want you to undersell that. You're a fucking beast. Is I feel like that is a very important core ingredient to anybody who's struggling with anything in their life. When you can put your body through the stresses, but then realize that we are organisms and we build ourselves up bigger, better, stronger, faster, that
Yeah.
really is important. And I'm slowly learning that. That's a huge component for me. I really needed to mature first. And I know I'm probably coming
Mm-hmm.
with excuses why I can't do fucking push-ups. That's why I'm committed to doing push-ups every day. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I'm committed to eating better, not drinking alcohol. But then I stacked that goal with I only consume coffee and water. I don't consume pop anymore. I've drank the
Mm-hmm.
odd Gatorade when I need the electrolytes and I'm really putting in the work, but I
Yeah.
don't drink that stuff on a regular anymore. It's literally water and coffee in the morning because I'm a shift worker. And if I didn't have coffee, I'd be motherfucking dead. Period. That's the real deal. So if you want to touch on that a little bit about, I got it on here, some of the notes, like you've done ultra marathons, you've done 75 hard. I really want you to dive into that because I'm fucking eager to try that one day. We both love Andy. That guy is the fucking real deal. For any of you that
Hell
don't know
yeah.
who he is, the Real
Hell
AF
yeah.
podcast, it will fucking change your life. That guy is no joke. And yeah, so if you want
Yes.
to dive into that, man, because I think people hearing your backstory and then seeing it come, not just a victory of finding recovery, but literally becoming your best mental self, but also your best physical self.
Yeah, thanks, man. And it is a journey without an end. It's like recovery, right? Like you're never recovered. You don't get a certificate that says, congratulations, you are now recovered. It's a constant journey, just like fitness, physical, as well as mental and emotional. For myself, I've talked about it. I spent 25 years as a severe binge drinker and drug abuser. So, of course, you're unhealthy. I didn't have a good night's sleep for many, many years, if I slept at all. Of course, with that, with addiction comes a shitty diet. It is shitty input via your what you watch on TV, the people you hang around with, the whatever it is, right? So I was very unhealthy for a long time. I did start making some changes before I stopped drinking. I remember, and dude, at one point I was 270 pounds and not a fit 270. There's a picture on the first page of my website, I believe, Gallant Dash Coaching, that it's like a side by side of what I was like in 2012 and what I was like now. Yeah, bloated, I always joke my face looked like a plate. It was so round, but just unhealthy in all ways. In that picture, I'm smiling, but behind that smile was so much pain. And oftentimes with fitness journeys, that's where it's almost born of pain sometimes. It's born of heartache. It's born of some personal defeat that you all of a sudden feel the fire to rise from those ashes from, right? So I had started getting in shape. I've told the story before, but one day I was very out of shape. I smoked too heavily, heavy smoker, everything, weed, cigarettes. And one day I was like, fuck, I feel like I should go for a run. So I like put on my Converse Chuck Taylors, walked my fat ass down to the track, and I think I did like 1 or 2 laps, and fuck, I was like exhausted. I was like, holy shit, that was brutal. But I felt good afterwards. I was like, oh shit, okay, like that felt good to get outside, get some fresh air. I'm gonna go again. And then of course just this transition happens. You start going and it's like, oh, maybe I should get a pair of running shoes. Maybe it's pouring rain in Vancouver all the time. Maybe I'll get a rain jacket or whatever, right? You just start gradually doing these things. And of course, it's like anything. Once you start seeing the results, you get motivated. It's that wind in your sails, right? Your strengths. The reason people quit fitness journeys or any kind of betterment journeys is because it takes a while to get the results. If you go start lifting weights, people give up 3 months in when they don't see their shirts aren't fitting any tighter, right? It's like, well, fuck this. But it's like, it takes time. Iron is forged in the fire, man. Steel is forged in the fire. You have to give it time. You have to pound on it and make it get to that strength. Again, a long story short, I started running. I started boxing. This is all still when I was drinking. I used to go to boxing so hungover. And I used to say, like, don't hit me in the stomach, man. I'm going to barf all over this ring. But I continued my very unhealthy lifestyle with sporadic bits of exercise. But when my second wife left, like I said, it destroyed me. I fucking hit the gym hard. And over the years, I'd go to the gym here and there, never with any urgency or passion. And I started hitting the gym fucking hard. And part of it was getting out my frustrations, my broken heart. I didn't know what else to do. Even though I was still drinking at the time, I started lifting weights. And when I stopped drinking, fuck, dude, everything changed. Number one, I lost like 30 pounds just from not drinking. Like weight just fell off of me. Like all of those empty calories from beer and the garbage diet, the pizza, the fucking whatever, the weight just fell off me. So all of a sudden I was feeling pretty good. Well, that's the momentum. Make a long story short, I started road running, and then one day I ran by a forest and there was a trail, and I was like, oh my God, where does this trail go to? And just started going down this trail, and that changed everything. I fell in love with trail running for the physical aspect, but dude, the mental aspect of being by yourself out in the forest, deep in the forest, is fucking magical. Like, we haven't talked much about like faith or spirituality or anything, but that's where I found my spirituality out there too. So I really took to trail running, and it was like I started doing like local races, like a 5K race, and I'd be like, holy shit, I did a race, then a 10K race. And it's like, this is the concept of self-efficacy, right? Is like the belief that you can do something if you put your mind to it. So once you do say a 10K race, it's like, fuck, okay, I did that. Maybe I could do a half marathon. Like maybe that 2 years ago, that thought wouldn't have even been in my mind. Like there's no way, but maybe I can. So you start making a plan and you register for it. Now you're registered. Remember I was talking about the map? Now you got something to work towards. You've got a date and a time and a place to be maybe 3 months from now. Okay, so what do I do? Well, I fucking got to start training. I got to do this. Then you do that. And then you do another one. And then it's like, could I do a marathon? And I always say I got sober I stopped drinking when I was 38 years old. And then when I was 39, I said, I'm going to do a marathon by the time I'm 40. And that's what I did. So I did my first road marathon 2 weeks before my 40th birthday. And then it became, could I do an ultra marathon? That's anything 50K or more. And they're always in the mountains. They're not roads. So it's okay. So started training for that. Did that. Now it's been, I think I've done 10 ultra marathons now. I've done 50 milers. So that's 80 something kilometers. And I always stress this. I'm not good at it. I'm like mid-pack at best. It's not like I'm out there fucking crushing the competition and podiuming or anything like that. No, but I'm fucking huffing and puffing. I'm still 205 or 210. I was pulling my fucking heavy ass up those hills in the mountains, but I finish. I pride myself on that. I haven't not finished one yet, despite some very close calls of quitting. 75 hard, yes. 75 hard. I did that with my girlfriend, which if your listeners don't know, just Google it. Hashtag 75 hard, Andy Frisella's program. It's multiple different challenges that you have to do daily. It's very difficult. I joke about this too, because on day 39, I was done. I was fucking done. I told my girlfriend, I'm done. I'm out. You can continue if you want. And she's like, bullshit. You said you were going to fucking do this. I'm continuing on. Are you really going to let me continue on and you not do it? So I was like, okay, dear. And we did finish it. We also did something called the Great Virtual Race Across Tennessee. When COVID hit and all the running races canceled, they did this online virtual one. So it's the length of Tennessee is 1,000 kilometers, or it's like 1,020. So they did this challenge where you had 4 months to go 1,020 kilometers. And there was a tracker. So every day you'd input how far you ran and you could track your way across Tennessee kind of thing. And the guy that organized it was from Tennessee. That's why they did it. But that was fucking hard. You had to do a minimum of 8 kilometers a day, walking or running, to just barely finish to get there right in the 4 months. So I'd run like 30 kilometers in a day, then take like 2 days off. My girlfriend went, she was out there every day doing 8 to 10 kilometers in Vancouver in fucking pouring rain, snow, whatever it was, right? So, anyways, she's a beast as well. I have to recognize her for her knocking off challenge. She actually did that one twice the next year too. She said, "Do you want to do the virtual race with Cross Tennessee?" I was like, "Fuck no." But she did it. And she went out there every single day to get her kilometers. She was injured. She still went out. She's very focused and an inspiration to me as well. So, yes, 75 hard is hard, but I highly encourage you to do it, buddy. It's worth it to get to that 75th day. It's no joke.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. And as we go into this fourth quarter of my men's group, and I'm discovering the fitness aspect of it and really wanting to carve out that aspect of my life, I'm learning more and more that fitness in any modality is only the surface. It literally scratches the surface of the overarching net result. So for instance, 75 hard, and for those, I'll give people a quick summary. It's 2 45-minute workouts a day. One of them has to be outside every day, no breaks. 4 liters of water a day.
That was the hardest part for me.
Yeah, that's not that.
Pissing like 50 times a day.
It's ridiculous. It's if you're not sweating out a liter of water a day, it's not enjoyable. You have to read 10 pages a day of a nonfiction, no alcohol. I believe there's one more. You have to take a progress picture every day.
Yeah, and that's difficult too, to remember to do that every day. You have to pick a diet, something that's different than what your normal diet is, something that's a bit of a challenge. For mine, I went vegetarian. The first and last time that's going to happen, but I did it for 75 days.
That's awesome. But where I was going with that, where I was going with that is if you laid out a program in front of me and you called it 75 hard and you explained to me those parameters, no cheat meals, no cheat days, it's 75 fucking days of this, 2.5 months. Is if you told me that, I'm like, man, that's a crazy fitness challenge. But Andy doesn't call it a fitness challenge. It's a mindset challenge. And the more and more I look at it, the more and more I look at people that have the discipline and the fortitude to work out every day or close to every day, 5 days a week, whatever it may be. The people that wake up earlier than you can even conceive in your brain to do something as difficult as sweat your face off, burn your muscles, get a pump, gasp for air. Like it sounds crazy on the surface level. You're just like, man, that's fucking insane. Because life's all about comfort. Life's all about only doing what you want to do and all this bullshit. The more and more I look at it and the more and more I find my why I need to start doing this. And you can shoot for the fence and you can swing for the fences of I need to do it for my family. I need to do it so that I can play with my grandkids someday. And that is true. There is merit to that, I will say. But you will build yourself mentally more than you will build yourself physically. When you can say no to somebody who puts donuts in front of you or a big fat fucking iced cappuccino from Tim Hortons on a 30-degree day in July, that takes some fucking cojones, man.
Yes, dude.
It really does. And when you can do that consistently, because eventually, like you said, with recovery, eventually when you get to the point where you don't even desire it anymore, it would be to the point where not only would you look at that and you would say, that's just not for me, but it would start going through your head where you're like, how could you want to do this? And you almost have this desire to reach out and be like, do you realize what this is? It's a fucking cup of sugar, bro. Like it's gonna fucking kill you. Like that's what it's gonna do. And that's objective reality. And people know this. People know that eating chips is bad for you, but we still do it.
Yeah. Oh, I love some Miss Vicky's, I'll tell you that.
But where I was going with that is the health and wellness. it's been so focused and sold to people on the big muscles, the more bench, all this stuff. And I feel more now, the people that I'm discovering through this independent coaching or through people that have actually been through it, it's
Mm-hmm.
actually more mental than it is physical. And that's actually the muscle I feel like growing the most is my mental abilities. And I've
Mm-hmm.
seen it on the surface level with my courageous component is getting into cold water, doing difficult hikes, jumping off 50-foot cliffs in tropical
Yeah.
destinations. That doesn't bother me. And most men, it doesn't. Most men are willing to answer the call, especially when you're surrounded by other men. If somebody
Mm-hmm.
calls you out, you're like, man, motherfucker, I got to do this. All right, let's do it. And that's fine. That's totally cool. But it's that other component, like you said, when you're in the trail by yourself and you're playing that mental game with yourself, you're like, why am I out here? What the fuck is this for? But
Mm-hmm.
then it's a situation where whether you listen to the Kobe Bryants of the world who used to do 2 a.m. practices, or you listen to the Jocko Willinks of the
Jocko,
world,
yeah.
and read his books and stuff. And there's so
Mm-hmm.
many resources out there. But the one common message is you don't just build your body, you build your
Mm-hmm.
mind. And that is
Mm-hmm.
something that over the last few years we've learned that it's really hard to put a visual, tangible, measurable component to it. But the people that look themselves in the mirror that can fucking do that, that can run the ultras, that can do the 75 hard, you are unwavering in your convictions and everything you do in life. And that for me is a huge inspiration that you bring to the table for me is not just the recovery component of it, because you could have honestly hung your hat on that and be like, I'm recovered, good to go. That's enough.
Mm-hmm.
I could just
Mm-hmm.
coast through life and everything. But no, you stack that win with something that is, it's going to pay you dividends in 15, 20, 30 years from now. And that's the
Mm.
journey I'm on right now, is that health and wellness. And that's the goal for me.
Yeah. Dude, I love it. Yeah, the mindset muscle, man. You build it like any other muscle, right? Certainly with 75 hard, when you just to jump back quickly, when you take those pictures, if you're doing it right, there's a transformation. Like my before and after picture, I went from decent shape to like full six pack in 75 days. Like it was pretty incredible. So the physical thing is there, but it's the, like you said, it's the mindset thing, right? Like I say this often about ultra running. It's equivalent to 75 hard is like, and I also say it about recovery. Like any of this shit is you have to go to battle. But if you never go to war, you'll never know if you're a hero or a coward, right? And that's a somewhat strong way to put it. But ultra running or 75 hard, it teaches you about yourself. It teaches you how to struggle through things, how to do things when you don't want to do them. Like people say to me often, they'll say like, "Oh my God, you ran 80 something kilometers in this ultra marathon. Like that must have been so hard." And I'm like, no, the hard part was the months and months of getting up at 4:30 in the morning and being outside in the pouring cold rain in the winter in the mountains before the sun comes up. And like that's the hard part. And then being sore for days at a time, being difficulty getting out of bed, sacrificing your relationship time, all in service of this goal. That's the hard part. The day is the celebration. That's when it all comes together, right? The hard part, what actually forges you, it's like that iron steel in the fire. That's done in the months ahead of time, right? So that's what doing these things, they teach you about yourself. How willing am I going to go into discomfort? See, we have to relearn our relationship with discomfort because comfort's easy, right? But that's not where growth is. The couch is easy. Sitting on the couch watching Netflix or whatever, that's the easy part. Eating those Miss Vickies, whatever it is. That's the easy part, right? I think a lot of what you're saying is around men rediscovering their relationship with discomfort and knowing that that is where we find what defines us, right? That's where willful suffering, whether it's getting into a frozen lake or climbing a mountain, doing a race, doing a 75 hard, just going to the fucking gym, whatever it is, right? Like putting yourself into uncomfortable, that's where real growth happens. Like you said, it's a muscle. And running ultra marathons is certainly a tough thing, and 75 hard is certainly a tough thing. But what's really tough is admitting where you are in life, committing yourself to a process of improving it, and then moving forward day in and day out. You have to find that in order to do these things, right? So, and I always say this, you mentioned Jocko, like there's David Goggins and stuff. So many of us look at these people, well, maybe those are bad examples because they're otherworldly, but we look at athletes, we look at other people, and we think they have something that we don't have, but they don't, man. Guys look in the mirror and they think about their dreams of what they want to do, whether it's an ultra marathon or some physical challenge or whatever, and they just say like, I don't have it, but they do. I look to other people and I catch myself doing this all the time. I'm like, that guy And before I stopped drinking, I used to do this all the time. I'd like look to other people. I'd be like, well, that's not me. I can't do that. But we need to realize that they're just a man, just like us. They're just a man that started something and then dedicated themselves to it. And then after that, their lives got better. So it's like you have to just go out day after day after day, whatever the challenge is, to build that muscle. And that's where you're going to find out what you really are. There's no difference between you and anyone that's doing what you want to do, right? They're just somebody that did it and started taking those incremental steps, little steps. They've realized at some point that they had it in them to do that. So why can't you? Why can't any man, right? It's maybe easier said than done. It took me a long time, but everybody right now is capable of making that change. Age doesn't matter. Neither does your story, your hardships, your traumas. None of that shit matters. We all have it in us. Every single person we look up to, is what I was saying about looking up to people or people that we want to be like, they started exactly where we are now. And we can never forget that because we can keep making excuses. People make excuses all the time. Men make excuses. I still do in areas of my life, certainly. That's what I'm saying. Like, not nobody's fucking perfect. I make excuses too, but we need to be working on, are we going to keep making excuses for ourselves? Are we going to keep telling ourselves that we're different than that person that's doing what we want to do? We have everything in us right now. We just have to go get it. And that's what I started to do in recovery. That's what I try to coach people on is like, fucking, you have it. Go get it. It may be difficult. I always say this about recovery. Is it difficult? Yes. Is it worth it? Fuck yes, it is. So it's like whether it's recovery or physical things or whatever your goal is, or whatever you want to be, the person you want to be, whoever you aspire to. Of course, it's going to be difficult. Nothing worth having or being is worth it if it's easy. The challenges and the hardships, that's where when we look back, we go, I fucking did it. I did it. I put my nose to the grindstone. I got up early. I did the shit that I was supposed to, what I didn't want to. I had discipline. And now I got what I wanted out of it, right? This is part of the journey that we're on. And I like what you're saying about that mental muscle. Physical, mental. It's really hard to find this. I'll just say, since we're talking about recovery a lot, it's really hard to find this when you're clouded by the person I am now. 10 years ago, me wouldn't have even believed the person I am now. Wouldn't have even liked the person I am now. It's like, and I say this to people, if you haven't seen me in a long time, you don't even really know me because you know a different version of me. But it can happen for anybody when you dedicate yourself to it. Build that physical muscle, build that mental muscle. But it comes down to focusing on it, getting clear about what you want and going and getting it, right? I know you know this. I know that this is part of your mindset as well. And so maybe it's a lot of what the people we follow. I follow inspirational people online. I follow people that inspire me to do everything that I just said there in that rant. That's like probably osmosis, things that I've heard Goggins say or things that I've heard Frisella say over the thing, right? It's just like this is who we aspire to be, these people, but we also take the steps that we need to do to get there because we know they're no different than us, right? That can stop people in their tracks. I can't do it. I'm different than them. You're not.
Yeah, I love that concept of curating your life. 2 points on here, and then we'll finish on one for you. We follow inspirational people. And this is something that I found myself doing during the pandemic, but even before the pandemic, that getting to that comfortable lifestyle is being guys. We are sold vice every day. The society, the economy, fucking everything that we consume. Everything is designed to find our dopamine kicks, our secret pleasures. I've done a really good job of curating the content I consume, but this might just be a hack for some guys is, man, when I first signed up for Instagram and you go to that suggested search reel and you're looking for pages that might be cool and fun and all that stuff, and our phones fucking listen to us, I'm super convinced that fucking happens. But you'll see these pages of women shaking their ass or fake having sex. And it's like, click my link for $10 a month to see me, all this shit. Just so everyone is aware, if there's something that doesn't serve you and you look at it and you're just like, man, why is this popping up? There's 3 little buttons at the top of the right-hand corner. You can click those and say show less. And it takes a little bit longer than for you to like or comment. When you do that enough, you eventually find yourself curating your life to only positive content. So that way you don't only have to seek out positive content. That it means that bad content will not just pop up in your life. And that goes for any of these stupid fucking videos. Like, man, I'm in a paintball community online, and I don't know if we got a virus or a bot or whatever it is, but it was these fucking Asian porno videos they were putting on there. And like, I'd be the first one to see it because, I mean, Facebook and social media companies bring it down pretty quickly, but like, it's literally tits and ass on Facebook. And I was like, this is fucking Pornhub. Like, this is crazy. There's this really cool, Apple has it, but this is something we started doing in our men's group is if anybody listening, I challenge you to go on device well-being on an Android or whatever it is for your iPhone and
Mhm.
track how much time you spend on your phone a day. You
Oh,
would be fucking shocked.
oh
So it's this
yeah.
idea when people say, I don't have time. And then you look and you're like, I was on Facebook for 2.5 hours. What the fuck was I doing?
Great.
But what's crazy is just like the gym, when people talk about it's daunting, it's overwhelming, I don't know how to lift, I don't want to stop mid set and track my weight and track my reps and all this. This is a short term thing that you have to do because you're not educated. So with
Mm.
something like that on your phone, you can set up alerts. You can set up, there's actually an app. It's called Minimalist app. I have it on my phone that every time
Hmm.
if I exceed 1 hour on Instagram, the next time I open up Instagram, it brings up my fitness app. It'll actually
Ah.
automatically populate it. And it took a long time to set that up. And so that day that I set it up, if I looked at my metrics, yes, I would have been on my phone quite a bit for sure, no doubt.
Hmm.
But you can customize and curate your life around you. We are in the age of information and technology. There is absolutely nothing that these phones cannot do. These are hacks that you can do very simply that it may not get you going, but it'll stop keeping you sitting. It'll stop making you stand still. And these are little tips, and everybody has them, but
Yeah.
different strokes for different folks. And this is the
Hmm.
sort of stuff that if you want to stop seeing TNA, if you want to stop
Hmm.
seeing guys play video games, if you want to stop seeing dumb ass net zero shit in your life,
Hmm.
do the work. And I'm not saying go lift weights right now. I'm saying you can curate any content that you consume right now. The same thing the way we used to do with channels when you used to get cable TV. You're like, fuck no, I don't want the Discovery Channel. Well, I don't want to see rhinos humping all day. And I feel like as men, it's exponentially worse because we're given these really polarizing, extreme things that give us these chemical kicks. It's like, fuck yeah, I want to see that. Or I've had a bad day. I need a bit of a quasi release. Um,
Yeah.
I just wanted to let people know that you can absolutely curate your life to be only consuming good content, but also eliminating the negative in your life that is pushing you down.
Bro, I love that. And actually I needed to hear that. That's, when we were talking about, and I'll just quickly say what you're saying about that as men, the dopamine hit, the whatever. Like think of the young men, think about their world of the snapshot, the TikTok, all of these things. My Instagram, I go to the search and it's the same thing as you. It's all these like jiggly titties and like all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't search for this. I just go to the search bar and that's what's there. I'm like, I do not type this in. Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan, but I'm not like,
I'm not
when
getting
I
the
want to,
jiggly
not
ones. What are you like? I need your secret sauce. What's going on there?
you're in the I'm a fan when I choose to go for that, but it's like if I'm in the grocery store and I open up Instagram and so go to my search thing, like that's all that comes up. I was just thinking about this like today or yesterday. I'm like, I did not search for all of this content, and some of it, to be fair, is very extreme, like
Oh
extreme
fuck yeah,
content. And
man!
I'm
It's
like,
it's it's
I'm like,
crazy.
how? Why is this here? I didn't search for this. What you're saying about the time, I do get notifications, and we were talking with this brings comes full circle to recovery and how nobody's perfect or anything like that. I'm not a master of addiction. I have to face the facts that I spend way too much time on my phone. I would almost definitely consider it an addiction. Now, don't get me wrong, I do work on my phone too. But like my Instagram, when I get those notifications, I don't even want to shame myself by telling you what they say to you personally, but it's like a lot of time on Instagram. And thankfully, I never got TikTok. I never got Snapchat. And what is it? It's that dopamine. It's them keeping you, hooking you, the hook. There you go again. It's so powerful. We're of different, I think I'm about 15 years older than you. And so we're even different. But then you're 15 years older than my kid. And I see the way that he's growing up and the technology and all of those problems with pornography and dopamine and it's fucking scary, man, and it's out of control.
Yeah. So the one thing I do want to end on is I know, and I'm super pumped for this because this goes back full circle for your journey is leaving a really cushy job, one that you're really good at, something that's relatively applicable to what we're doing. And you're getting into the men's coaching space, but you're relaunching yourself, you're rebranding yourself. And I've seen it. I've seen the fire, the few videos you've put out. Your smile is fucking ear to ear. You're a calm demeanor, but you can really tell that you're wanting to kind of talk at an elevated octave. You can just see that it's sparking something. I can't wait to
Thanks.
see it. I can't wait to see your message. I can't wait to see your desired goal. I don't know if you have any initial thought processes of anybody that might be intrigued with this stuff. Because where I'll go with this real quick is if you would have asked me 2, 3 years ago, men's coaching, fitness coaching, social media coaching, all this independent coaching,
Mm-hmm.
the word I would have used is snake oil, because I've had a lot of bad experiences. And I think people will call themselves an entrepreneur. People will call themselves a coach when they haven't done the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I know now from experience, talking to damaged men, working with
Mm-hmm.
men that were overweight or went through divorces or struggled with, marriages or children or business or whatever it may be. When I talk to these people that a little bit of their life experience is applicable to me and they have that actual lived experience, that speaks volumes. And that is a service I'm willing to pay for. No different than when I pay a chef at a really nice restaurant to cook my food and it's a really
Mm-hmm.
reputable restaurant. It's the exact same thing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
gallant-coaching.com may not be the mainstream. People may not know a ton of it. It may not get a ton of traffic. But if people don't know already listening to this podcast, you've been through the shit and you have lived
Mm-hmm.
experience, whether it be recovery, whether it be fitness, whether it be fatherhood, whether it be traveling or living in other countries, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt in my mind the day you write an autobiography, it's going to be a fucking great book. Where I'm going with this is I know that your coaching brings value. And years ago, I would have never invested in myself through investing through coaches. I would have never done it because I had bad experiences. I thought it was a farce. I thought these clowns are going to sell me some fucking Googled fucking course. They're going to download somebody else's PowerPoint presentation. It's going to be bullshit. And now
Yeah.
that I've done it, now that I've actually done the work and I've actually truly invested significant amounts of money
Mm-hmm.
into personal coaches, men's group, wellness, retreats, whatever it may be, I can
Mm-hmm.
fucking tell anybody who's listening to this, it is insane what it can do for you. It is
Mm-hmm.
unfucking believable. It does take the right coach. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a vetting process. And I have found that not only when consumers vet the coaches, but the coaches can vet the consumer, that's when the
Mm-hmm.
relationship really, really takes off. And that's when you can really find that perfect person for you. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for your mission. And I don't know if you have any details, your vision, what it might entail, when it's going to launch. I just want to give you the floor to excite anybody who's listening to this, including myself, that might want to jump in on this.
Well, thanks, dude. I appreciate all the kind words. And I felt the same as you about coach space, but pretty much a coach can help to take you to the next level. You name me a successful person, I guarantee they have a coach or they have some sort of mentor. And most of the time they're investing in it because it is an investment. I ask people to invest their time and their money in me. And in turn, like I think you know this, I just did a very expensive, intensive training course just that I didn't need to do, but just to be better, just to stay on the where I need to be doing this. I invest in myself. And in turn, because it's only fair, I ask people to invest in me. I want to give them the best experience possible, right? I often say too, when you hire a coach, you can't think about it by, oh, this is what they charge by the hour. It's like, oh, it's this much an hour and anything like that. You're paying for the result. Like, what is it worth for you to finally unshackle yourself from the drinking habit that's holding you back in life? What is it worth to get your family back? What is it worth to get your career back on track or to take the big plunge that you have been thinking about for years and years and years, right? Like, what is that worth? That's what you're actually paying for with coaching, the result. It's not about the hour. People say, oh, you charge this an hour. Yeah, number one, I want an investment from somebody. Trust me, if I had $1 million in the bank, I'd be doing this for free all day long. But I want somebody to invest in me. People, when you're invested in something, you're in. You want the result. If I did shit for free, people would not turn up or it wouldn't be a priority in their life, right? And I've turned down people because I didn't feel that they were maybe somebody was forcing them to be there or something, right? I've declined clients before. And not like I've got not like I'm in a position to be declining clients or anything, but I have said like, this isn't a fit right now. Like I can tell that you're not, I want you to, we're going to work together. We're going to partner on this shit, right? That's what it essentially is that relationship. This is the number one thing. So basically, I've been facilitating a program for a long time. I worked on the downtown east side as a recovery coach for a long time for a treatment center. My passion is one-on-one or group coaching. I love it. It fills me up. I like to think that I'm pretty decent at it. Like I said, it was my calling to do this work. So the stuff I have going on, I quit. I don't like the word quit. I left my job at the treatment center And I'm just going all in on this right now. So what this means is I am starting a men's group. It's hopefully going to start in launch in January. I'm working to make it a space where men will want to be. You know all about the benefits of the men's group. I know that. It's going to be part men's group, part group coaching, kind of what I did in the facilitation role. But I'm working hard to make it a place people want to go. People have a image of men's group, right or not. But it's going to be a place where I think that there are a lot of guys are going to change their lives and we're going to support each other, hold each other accountable, all these things. Another cool thing that I haven't told you yet that I'm going to launch in November. I'm going to do a challenge, a 30-day challenge for November for anybody that wants in. Could be guys, girls, whatever, right? But I'm really going to try and push this out there. 30 days, 30 challenges, $30. I'm doing it in November because it's the perfect time. We're leading into Christmas. We're leading into 2024. Like, start getting your shit together now. Commit to something. So 30 days. I'm not going to say what the challenges are. I'm not going to direct them. It's whatever you want to do in 30 days to better yourself. Part of what I say in coaching, as I told you, is how do you be 10% better, right? Like, that's where you start. Be 10% better. If you could do that every month, and whatever that means for you. So I'm going to lay out tons of different things. It could be like 30 minutes a day reading a personal development. It could be like doing a mindfulness routine. It could be journaling. It could be running. It could be, there's so many different things. But the whole point is just fucking challenge yourself for 30 minutes every day. And there's going to be like a tracker. You're going to go on there. I'm going to have a private Facebook group. Hopefully people will interact on there. But I'm going to really push this out. So I want tons of people to do this. And I think it's a great way to just fucking start getting in the habits of just that little incremental change, right? Committing to something every day, 30 minutes, do something that's going to better yourself. That's something I'm really excited about right now. So that one, information about that's going to be coming out in about a week. Other than that, as you know, I do recovery coaching. I have a 6-session program that I've just framework that I've just come up with that I'm going to, people have that option if they want to do it. Hits on various themes of recovery, values, goal setting, all these sorts of things, but it's more structured. I'm going to be doing that. And also one-on-one men's coaching. That is so fucking important. And I've seen such tremendous change from guys. I just got a message last night or the night before from the wife of a guy I coached. It's actually, she posted it, should be on my Facebook. So I'm not just making shit up. And she just said, like, she reposted one of my videos and just said, my husband worked with Zan, changed his whole life. We're so thankful for what you did for our family and stuff. And I'm just like, fuck, that is why you do it, right? That makes me so happy to see somebody change. And that's what we do in one-on-one coaching. To sum it up, I offer a free call, no charge, no pressure, confidential call. That's what it is. We'll just see what's going on for you. If anybody listens to this and thinks that I might be able to help them in some way, fucking reach out. The fear of reaching out kept me stuck for years. I wish that people don't have to do that. I wish that I had have reached out sooner for help when I was struggling so badly. Mental health, addiction, everything. I did not. Like I said, I want to be the person that I needed. So fucking reach out if you're struggling in any way. As a man with addiction, whatever, even just having that free call, sometimes that's enough to set you off going, right? I don't pressure. I'm not a salesman. I'm not a hustler. You want to work with me or you don't. But I know that it's very effective. I know that for a fact. And yeah, that's the thing. So let's get in touch with me.
I love the idea of doing something before Christmas. I'm so sick of those empty January 1st, New Year, New Me bullshit. I think doing it before Christmas will generate momentum.
Cold plunge and sauna is going to be on there too,
right,
in the suggestions, right?
And November is a great time to do that, especially if you're on a coast anywhere. You just jump in the ocean. I know it sounds far-fetched, and people walking on the sidewalk in their parkas and their Canada Goose down jackets might think you're ridiculous, but it's the real deal. This is a perfect time. You know, you're starting to come to the realization how many New Year's resolutions you did not accomplish. You're coming to that stressful time of Christmas where people spend money, people are busy with Christmas parties. And then there's that whole thing of in January, you want to start all these New Year's resolutions, but then the end of January, the fucking credit card bill comes out for all the spending that you did and all the new iPhones you bought and all the gifts you bought. And then you start getting down on yourself. And then the tax bill comes the end of February. And there's all these reasons why your year won't start off great. But if you can make measurable improvements in your life before Christmas and have that momentum, you will go into the new year and that holiday season. And you might even get comments from your family members that you see over Christmas. They might say, man, I haven't seen you in a while, or I've seen you doing push-ups every day, or what's this you jumping in the ocean thing all about? And it generates conversation, it generates awareness, and you become a storyteller through even a short amount of experience, but you become that person that can tell that story of growth and of awareness And whether they use you as a coach or they use Extremely Conscious or they come on my podcast or they discover Jocko Willink, or it doesn't matter who, it's just that idea of getting better in all facets and whatever modality you choose. But I love the flexibility of it as well. You allowing people to choose, giving them a predetermined list to kind of get the creative juices going, but maybe they stray off that list a little bit. Maybe it's 30 minutes of breath work a day for anybody who hasn't done that modality where,
that's on the list.
Yeah. Or maybe it's doing 30-minute yoga every day or stretching because you have an injury and you want to start your own recovery and not listen to what modern medicine tells you. There's so many different facets, right?
I've even got on the list, like, use your company benefits. It's November. When was the last time you went for a massage or an acupuncture?
Yeah.
Like, use that shit, right? Like, and that's part of someone, if someone does that as their challenge for the day. And I just think $30, it's the price of a fucking case of beer. Like, to have something to do for the month it's all in the service of bettering yourself, little bits at a time, right? Little increments, 10% better. Get on base. Don't swing for the home run. You're just getting on base, right?
And you're going to meet other crazy motherfuckers that, if you're questioning, if you're going to be looked at weird and kind of be looked at as on an island of misfit toys, so to speak, there's other people, there's other toys on that island, man. You're going to meet other people that maybe they have
even go on their
worse
podcast one day. Like us.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're from the island of misfit toys, actually, but
I'm pretty sure we've made a permanent residence there. No, I love that, dude. I love that challenge. I can't wait to see more details.
Obviously, I'm going to push it hard. I think I wanted a lot of people to do it, man. I think I'm going to push it pretty hard. So
you got a fan here, man. I love what you're doing. I think this is going to also give momentum to you yourself to realize that there's a demand for your coaching, your stylistic nature, your lived experience. This is going to give people a taste of Zan and what you have to bring to the table. I've been very fortunate to been immersed in your presence pretty regularly. And I am super thankful for that experience. And you've opened my eyes to the possibility, even something as simple as, I'm younger than you were when you got sober, let alone started working out. I played a paintball tournament last weekend and jacked up my knee. And I'm just like, fuck, this thing isn't going to heal because I'm old as shit. And then I see Zan running ultra marathons, the 8-year future version of Alfred. I'm like, man, shut the fuck up, Alfred. Get off the thing, put some ice on the knee and get after it. Like,
oh, I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you too, man. I'm so glad that we've reconnected, and I'm a fan of yours too. I'm a big fan of this podcast. I'm a big fan of your mission, of what you're trying to do with it.
Real quick, I want you to let people know, where can they find you? What are all the socials you have? What are the websites? Where can people find Zan?
Well, my website is gallant-coaching.com. I hate that there's a dash in there, but Gallant Coaching was taken by somebody that's not even using it. So Gallant-Coaching, tons of info on there. Other podcasts I've been on are on there. That sailboat thing that I was talking to you about explains it. It's got a visual on it right there. So that might be interesting to some people. Instagram, I'm mainly on Instagram, just Gallant Coaching on there. LinkedIn, you can find me, although I'm not on there a lot. I do have a Facebook, but Facebook doesn't, the algorithm or the engagement just isn't there on it. I don't know if people see stuff as much, but Instagram, I'm very fortunate to be supported by lots of friends and supporters, and I'm grateful every day for that. I'm grateful for all my friends in this world. I'm grateful for you and being on the podcast today. And just, that's it. To close it off, man, we didn't get into this, but people often ask me the secret of recovery. The secret of recovery starts with gratitude, man, in my humble opinion.
In your lived experienced opinion, just so we're clear, because that is the real deal. That is the real deal. And I think that's not just recovery, that's anything in life. You have gratitude for anything. If you can, we spoke about this before the podcast about reframing, but I hope people got some value. I hope people join that challenge. I absolutely love it. And I can't wait to see what comes next for the revamp of your one-on-one coaching, for your brand. You got a fan for life, man. So I truly appreciate you. So
that feeling is mutual, brother. I appreciate you as well. I'm very happy to be here, and we will be in touch. I don't think this is the last conversation, whether it's in a podcast capacity or working together somehow in some way, man. There's a lot of alignment between you and I, and I'm very grateful for that.
I appreciate it, man. Well, for those for listening, thank you so much for sticking around. I know this was a long one. Hope you got some value, and go check out Zan, check out his stuff. I will leave links in all my descriptions and everything, so you guys will see tons of content. But till next time, have a good one, guys.
Thank you, brother.
Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Unmodern Podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, like and follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Unmodern Podcast. Do you have suggestions for future guests, or if you're interested in being a guest yourself, please visit unmodernpodcast.com. Thank you again, and we'll see you in the next episode.